Welcome to The Beacon, where we shine a light on the businesses and leaders making our world stronger. On this show, we talk with individuals running teams and companies in Buffalo and beyond. The ones developing top-notch talent, managing the pressure of growth, and making hard calls every day to keep their people and their businesses moving forward. Our guests bring stories about decisions, projects, and strategic moves they've been part of. The technology investments that paid off, the hires that changed everything, the moments that defined their careers, and the principles that will matter for years to come. The leaders we talk to on this show have walked the walk. They come here to show you the steps they took along the way. At Lighthouse, we believe technology and talent are the things that drive every business to success. Joining us at The Beacon is one way you can keep learning and keep growing. I'm Joe Ray, and let's get to it. The show's guest is one of the most interesting people I've ever met. She's lived all over the world, worked in all different environments, and brings the most sincere mindset to every interaction. She's great. Pauline McKeown is a technology project manager by trade, but I think the stories she has to share would inspire anyone in any field, so I'm really glad you're here. Pauline's a repeat guest and part of our growing family of Lighthouse Friends of the podcast. We recorded this just after Buffalo's 5th Women in Tech Conference, a day where more than 500 technologists and supporters gathered to level up and build community together. Lighthouse was glad to sponsor Pauline's breakout session on future-proofing your tech career. On this podcast, we'll go a little deeper on that topic. We'll talk about why garbage in, garbage out from the software era still applies and might even be more relevant in this age of AI. We'll talk about what the future workplace looks like with humans and agentic solutions working in parallel, maybe even together. Where humanity is the difference in how effectively we're able to implement AI as a business driver. And much more. We've got some book recommendations too. It's a really great episode. Hey, here in Buffalo, we're moving on from winter and into a sunny spring. I think you'll feel a little brighter after listening to this podcast episode. Hope you enjoy. And if you want to check out more conversations like this, make sure you're subscribed at getthebeacon.com or subscribe to just the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you listen. Here we go. It's episode 2 of The Beacon with Pauline McKeown. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Welcome into The Beacon podcast with Lighthouse Technology Services. I'm Joe Ray, and here with my friend Pauline McKeown today. Return guest. Glad to have you back on the show.
Excited to be here. It's just, it's amazing what happens in 1 year. I feel like it's eons since we were in this space, but excited to be here. Really excited. And I feel like, kind of less scared than the first time when I did this, because the first time I was like, oh my God, I don't know where to look.
Seasoned podcast veteran now.
Feel like a veteran now. Yeah, I got this.
Love that. Glad to have you back here off your second time speaking at the Women in Tech Conference.
Yes, we just had it last week, which was amazing. For those who didn't come, man, women out there, just please make time for this. This is your you time to build yourself, not just professionally, but I think career-wise too. The networking is so powerful. Yeah,
I'll drop some links in the comments of where you can get involved with that group throughout the year, and then when they do their annual conference every year in March.
Yep.
But really cool opportunity, and just thought a good place to start would be, how did you feel going through your second time as a breakout presenter at Women in Tech?
I think again, I felt more seasoned. I knew what to expect. They did change it up a little bit this time. They had the keynote speakers speak first before we went into the rooms to have the breakout sessions, which I thought was also good because it got people there early to listen in to the keynote speaker, who was amazing. Linda Tai, I think, did a phenomenal job talking about the state of technology today and the value we bring to the table as women in tech. And then I think they also had a plethora of great breakout speakers. I was one of the speakers, but I wished I could have actually been more of an attendee, because there were some breakouts that I really wanted to attend. So I connected with some of the speakers, and I'm following up with them to get more information on some of their topics.
So I was at our sponsor table for the whole keynote session with Linda Tai and missed it. Could you give me like the super cliff notes of like one thing that you remember from that, maybe?
Wow, those are a number of amazing things she talked about. I think to me, I always look for a personal story, because a personal story tells me about who you are. What the irreplaceable part is your story. So she talked about her journey to, first of all, into tech, because I did not know this, but she was a musician. So she was, I think, a pianist by profession. In fact, I think one of the questions that someone asked was, who's her favorite musician? And she mentioned Bach is her favorite. She talked about how, there's two types of artists, obviously the one who takes off and the one who starves. And that's why she chose to kind of veer into technology because she realized as much as she loved music, it wasn't really panning out. But the beautiful thing is that she brought the skill set from music into her tech world, and she was good at math in school, so she managed to, go into a tech career easy. I think
Nice.
she took mathematics, if I'm not wrong. But the beautiful thing is the repetitiveness of practicing for music, that the discipline you need, and then also sometimes she said the toughness that you have when you're a pianist. You have to practice a lot, and
Hmm.
you're perfectionist. You really want to hone your skill and be perfect. And she took that same skill to her work life because she had to make sure that she was thorough in her preparation for meetings. And that really earned her that attention at
Nice.
work that helped her move her career forward. Started in fintech, I think, in New York, and grew her way to where she is today in Buffalo. Um, she had an acronym build where she was talking about that continuous learning. If you make a mistake, you can pivot and keep moving forward. um there's a lot of things also about like communication, and this was for me very powerful because, as you may know, my background is in international relations. I speak several languages,
Yeah.
and I really believe in the power of articulating yourself,
Hmm.
communicating your message. And she talked a lot about how she even had to take accent reduction classes just to make sure that she was very clear and succinct to those she wanted to value her work, because you could
Sure.
have the best skill set and still fail because people can't see it if you can't communicate it. So I thought that was a powerful lesson for all of us who attended, that don't just be so good at the certs and all the qualifications. Take some time to also invest in enhancing how you communicate your message, because that
Love
might be
that.
the difference between who gets the job. But yeah, there's a bunch of things she
Cool.
said that really made a huge difference, I think, to a lot of people. Oh, she mentioned her AI bots. She has a bunch of them that do different things. So she's
Yeah.
definitely into the tech, and she has one, I guess, for shopping, for cooking,
Yeah.
so I thought that
Super
was cool.
specific.
She has names for them too. So
I love that. I love it. Give them a little personality too. I like that. But
yeah,
that is very much a thing too that I think we're moving past the age of just like, oh, you got to use ChatGPT for everything. And everybody's just kind of like all about this.
yeah,
And like you're finding very either context rich applications of like giving it a lot of
absolutely.
training and a lot of knowledge,
Yes.
or like getting very function specific of like, I'm going to build a custom GPT or a tool to do this one thing for me, shop for the best deals, whatever. Like I
Right.
feel like that's where a lot of that is going, and got a little bit of that at the conference.
I did. And, I think
Yeah.
for those who are still just at the prompt level, we now have agentic AI. That's what people are moving to, because now we want bots that can actually perform roles consistently, not
Mhm.
having to be prompted every time, but can sort of understand what role you want them to play and be fairly consistent at understanding what you need. And so you can put the parameters within the bot and it can move. And we actually had a great breakout, I think, from a Microsoft team that talked about
Cool.
how you can build pretty much a ton of things, resources for customer service, for building a game. They actually built a game live in our session.
That's
So I thought that was
amazing.
super cool. Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought it was super exciting. I mean, I felt like this was a real women in tech. Like we actually had tech stuff happening on site. So it was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that's part of what's nice about this too, is like the ability to just build everything and make it accessible, make it as small that you could do it in a workshop. And I've seen that in a couple other events I've been to
Yeah.
over the past year too, that they'll break out. I went to one and they were using Lovable to like AI code an app,
Oh, yeah.
like right during a workshop and things like that. Like just super cool, and it's growing every year, every month, frankly. So like it's a lot to keep up with. But
Yeah.
obviously, what a lot of your breakout at Women in Tech was the core principles of communication and just the human aspect that we bring to work, whether it's IT project management or marketing or anything else in tech, anywhere.
Yes. And
There's some
actually,
core principles that
a,
stay the same.
a good segue for that is during the Microsoft agentic training,
Mhm.
one of the key takeaways I got from it is that you have to make sure that you understand your customer as you build
Mhm.
this agent. Because if you're just building an agent without an understanding of what your customer wants, you might be really wasting a lot of time in building something that will not be adopted. So I thought that was a powerful takeaway from that as well.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. I wanted to backtrack a little bit, thinking about the Women in Tech event as something that's really grown. This was year 5, I want to say, of the event, and like just being this really big community pillar where a lot of different people can make whatever connections they need to, frankly. But
Yeah.
you're also at 5 years now in Buffalo, right? Since you moved back up here.
Yep.
I'll drop the link to our first podcast from last year in the comments and whatnot.
Yeah.
Went a lot more into your backstory. But you're at a stage now where like you're hardened in Buffalo. Like you've been here for 5 years. Like you're used to the winter. But also tech wise, like you've kind of found your spot in the community. And shout out to our friend Brenda as well, who is on the PMI board with you and made this connection.
Yeah.
But it feels like you've really found your place here. And
I love Buffalo.
How are you enjoying it?
I love
Good.
Buffalo. I think really best move we made as a family to come to Buffalo because it's home and has made us like really integrated. I don't know whether there's a place I would have moved to and really integrated this fast, I feel like I've been here forever. Like I can get around in the north towns, the south towns. I know where to get not just wings, but pretty much all these other knickknacks. Like, I mean, right now with Easter, like Broadway Market has all my Easter goodies that I want to get. I love the fact that, even with the heartbreak, Bills is a solid part of our life. I'm happy about the Sabres right now.
Let's go. Yes.
Yes.
The playoffs are happening.
It's super exciting. But, it's so many little details that make this such a home. I've been here for 5 years and I've worked obviously in a bunch of interesting places. I was in Roswell, I was in M&T, I'm in Moog right now. And I see familiar faces. I feel like I know half of the town because we kind of all rotate around the same job market. So you end up connecting with so many people.
Nice.
And so I feel integrated because of that. And I think in terms of tech, I kind of have a pulse on the projects, like the big projects we're trying to take care of in this area, whether it's the Bill Stadium or whether it's Epic at, Kaleda or whether it's, system upgrades, like Moog is doing a huge tech, move to modernize and scale. And even with M&T, it was really interesting seeing how we're trying to improve the customer experience with fintech. So kind of feel like I have a sense of the cool technologies behind the different companies, and Buffalo is a happening place in that sense.
It is. It is. And there's lots of cool stuff happening in the forefront. And you mentioned agentic AI and like all these different things that are coming up that came up at the conference. I'm really curious about like what's actually going on in the work. Like AI as a conversation is everywhere, but I'm very curious about that kind of stuff of like, what does AI actually look like in your work? And like, what are some things and some ways you might be implementing it?
It's interesting because I think my first impression was AI was a personal thing because a lot of workplaces, especially because we deal with data.
Enterprise applications and their security concerns, and you can't just use base ChatGPT.
Yes. So there was a lot of caution. Like I remember when it first came out, when it really started becoming a trend, I remember them saying, you can't use it at work. We're working on it. I almost felt like most organizations were behind the curve with adoption because they had to figure out how to make it safe for their companies before they could unleash it. But I feel like most companies have now moved past that stage. Like at least in Moog, I know that we have internal components of AI that we're using and we actually are adopting it pretty fast. So I think that's a good thing because it saves you those repetitive tasks. It helps people kind of focus more on the actual work that needs to be done, the decisions that need to be made, as opposed to tons of reporting and writing that kind of drags out your day. So I think it's awesome for that.
Yeah. Can I click in on that a little bit actually? Because that principle that you mentioned right there of like what it takes for a business of that large enterprise scale to be able to start doing AI. I think there's still something there that's even relevant to businesses of any size. That in order to be able to implement AI solutions in your business, I was just having lunch with a friend yesterday and talking about this. The need for like clean data for AI to be able to access. And if you want to run a process in a way that uses some sort of automated or AI powered solution, like you've got to be able to give it the right stuff and have all the stuff organized in the right place, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Is that a big part of kind of like your project work and just kind of helping businesses with like organizing all their technology, like their data and that kind of stuff?
Yep. And actually, that's one of the things I talked about during Women in Tech was just the old acronym we had about, garbage in, garbage out, because it's really like the pressure now is, again, goes back to the human thought, like the thinking, the understanding. So again, goes back, do we understand what the problem is that we're trying to solve? Because with AI, you really need to have the end point and then you sort of work backwards, so you
Hmm.
need to know where you're trying to go and then you can figure out how to get there. It can
Yeah,
help you get there, but you need to know where you're going. So that's where the thinking happens. And then the other part is you need to understand that AI is programmed in a certain way. So it needs to know your role. It needs to understand the context. It doesn't have context if you don't give it context. And so that nuance is what you bring to the table. You tell it where you're trying to go, what your role is, what the context is, what you're
sure.
trying to solve. And and that takes sometimes a lot of time because sometimes, as you know, most people don't know what they really want.
For sure.
So there are a lot of people who are feeling like, okay, this is a cool thing. AI is a cool thing, but what do I do with it? And so the people who are still going to be the thrivers in this era of AI are the people who really understand how to filter the noise and understand what the real issue is.
Yeah, and that's a good segue too into one thing that I liked from your Women in Tech presentation as well, is the clarity and short form communication winning. And you
Yeah.
did a great job illustrating it with the reality versus LinkedIn
Oh yeah.
and a very simple thing then becoming a massive paragraph wall and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a very real thing there that whether it's, working within a project team, communicating with stakeholders, or if you're communicating with AI or some sort of agentic support tool and things like that, you have to be able to communicate directly. You have to have a really clear understanding of your objective, the problem, the solution, the context around it,
Right.
and things like that. Like, what are you seeing in terms of your work and just, how communication is becoming even more important in those types of skills?
I would say that pretty much at this point, we have a saturation of ChatGPT. I think everybody's using it in one way or another.
Hmm.
Like, maybe not everybody, because I know there's some very anti-AI people,
Yeah.
but I would say majority of the people have found this as an amazing tool. Like, oh my gosh, I can throw in my crap and I can magically have this beautiful thing pop out,
I'm not gonna lie, I will use it sometimes for that of just like if I've got a bunch of ideas in my head, I'm just gonna like
Just
vomit
throw the
everything into ChatGPT.
yeah,
I'm like, make sense of this for me, please. And it does, and it's great, and then I can get back to what I'm doing. But like that's
yeah,
not really practical for a
yeah.
lot of work. Yeah.
And I mean, we all use it for like some, special situations. I know it's like,
Sure.
I need to make a dinner. What can I do that's this and that?
Uh-huh.
Or I need, gosh, I mean, we've used it for so many things. That's, oh, you have an email or message from someone unpleasant. And you're like, I don't know how to respond to this. Like, could you give me a nice way to say no?
Yes.
Especially now with the holidays. Like, I don't want to have Easter with this person. How do I tell them no? No, I'm joking. But the point I'm trying to make is we've all used it, but that's a very low level usage of
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
The higher level usage of it it really requires some effort on our part. But then we could also be smart, like work smart. And I think that's where agentic AI is coming into play because then you don't just have to have this one prompt that you're using to get just this one thing, but it can now kind of almost have a persona where it kind of understands at a certain level what you're trying to do. And actually that's why we have several agents sometimes like that we're talking about at the Women in Tech because you want to have different roles assigned to your different agents so that they can really hone in on that area and be really
Hmm.
good at kind of focusing on that area and building that area. Because if you mix it up too much, then it just sometimes can give you a very big widespread of data. And then that gives you the work of then trying to filter and analyze. So it's like to make your life easier so that it doesn't just spew off everything, you want to give it a sense of a focus.
Hmm.
So I think that's one of the things that even I'm working on right now is building more focused roles. And then it will save me time because then it will know this is the context and this is what I expect from you. There's something
Hmm.
interesting too, the Microsoft team talked about is, for companies that are trying to really like solve some of their like help desk problems. You could have your whole help desk library with, typical answers that you want to give your customers when they reach out for something.
Hmm.
You can have agentic AI kind of do that customer service. And I will tell you, this year I had a very good AI experience where
Really?
I
Okay.
called
Yeah.
customer service. It wasn't a person, it was AI, but it was so good. The voice they chose was good. The answers I got were relevant. They solved my problem immediately. I didn't have to have the long waits where you wait for like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes before some human being comes on the phone who doesn't even know what you want and just kind of throws you around. they actually built I'm trying to remember what the company was, but it was one of the companies that is using an AI agent now to
Sure.
kind of help you through the process for customer service.
Okay.
But that's a really good use case of they build something that is actually solving problems. And that might help that company because a lot of times you lose customers in those long waits that don't resolve their problem.
Mhm.
And then I don't want to work with you anymore. So,
For industries and for work where if it's a very practical, like this person is having this well-defined problem and they need that solution,
right.
can you free up time with something AI powered
Yeah.
so that then the person who has a very complex problem going on and maybe there's, four different factors affecting what's going on and so and then like a person has to come in and do a lot of root cause analysis, bring their unique expertise into that as well.
Yeah.
There's good cases where it can free up, but to your point too, the focus
hmm
and being able to identify, okay, we're going to make a conscious decision that this is where we want to use something AI versus having someone human interact with that. What are you seeing and what kind of plays into your work and the decision making on your teams of choosing to engage AI versus keeping something human focused? What kind of might be some of those decision factors?
Okay, so at least in our current context, I'd say like most of the people using AI, because not everyone is really taken off with AI,
Yeah.
but most of the people who are using it are first of all sending better minutes to their meetings,
Mm-hmm.
building better reports to their meetings. Um, I'd say I don't think I have seen anyone really do a full agentic experience at the moment, but that's one of the things that I'm trying to think will need maybe some permissions
Mm-hmm.
to build
Sure.
at the organization. But personally, I have, by the way, because
Oh,
I
okay. Yeah.
also
Yeah. Talk about
I
that.
also
Yeah.
have a real estate business, and one of the things is I built one to support the inquiries for my properties, and I just
Nice.
wanted it to help setting up those initial appointments, and first of all doing that initial filtering that you need in terms of, do you qualify, do you have what do you when do you need this place by, like those, just some of those basic things that I first
Nice.
want to go through. So it's kind of doing my initial onboard intake process.
Okay.
And and also once I set the walkthroughs, it then follows up on, oh, you have an appointment on this day, looking forward to seeing you, let me
Cool.
know if you need to change your time or something like that. And I have received such a huge turnaround since I started doing that. And I realized like it was actually impacting me because there are people who, when they don't get that quick response, don't follow up with you and go elsewhere. So
Hmm.
I've actually managed to turn around, shorten my renting time because of that. So it's true, people do want quicker responses,
Yep.
and that is a business. That's something that I would say. So now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if this worked so well, I probably want to build it in terms of trying to reach out to potential customers and try to figure out some of the things they would like to see, or what are their pain points,
Hmm.
so that I can resolve that. But my first experience with an agent was very successful.
Nice. I'm actually very acutely dealing with a pain point where a business could be helped by this.
Yeah.
Um, that I had a plumber come out to our house yesterday because there was just massive like typhoon level rain,
Oh my
and we
gosh,
have to
it
get
was
the
bad.
bubbler on our sewage system replaced, which is going to require some digging and things like that. The plumber that was out there couldn't do it, but they recommended another one who we should go to, and I'm currently sitting on 3 voicemails left for them of like,
Oh,
hey, this company recommended you guys, like we want you to come out, quote this work. Hopefully we can get it done pretty soon, and
right,
still waiting to hear back. Like that's the kind of thing that I feel like a plumber is, somebody who's earned a whole ton of experience.
right,
They have all that knowledge that they could potentially set up some sort of answering system and
yeah,
things like that and get back to me quicker on that
right.
because their people need to be out in the field doing all the work and not taking calls and scheduling their next meetings and things like that.
Absolutely. And it can do that
Yeah.
initial triaging. Like you can tell it, if this, then that, if this, it's like logic,
Yes.
like how we do it
Hmm.
back in programming. For this case, take it this way. For this case, take it
Hmm.
this way. For this case, take it this way. Is this something that requires like 24 hours turnaround? Then that would be put in a different. Because you got to imagine, like, I'm sure many plumbers have issues. Because yesterday was a bad day in Buffalo. Like, for those who don't know, like, it was like rivers and lakes. I had to turn around several roads just
I
because I couldn't
remember
drive.
very few days like that in
Yeah,
my
it was
30
like a
plus years here.
flash flood. I don't know
Wild.
what happened. Yeah. Anyway,
So shout out to all the plumbers. They put a lot of good work around town. We love you. Thank you.
yes, we do. We do.
Going back to your experience about and talking about creating an agent for the rental businesses, like you probably went through the experience of doing all that work and having those conversations first
Yes.
so that you could set up the agent to handle that in the future. And that's a very big thing in this AI age too, that anything, even like base ChatGPT, Claude has been trained on things that humans have done. So that's
Yes.
still why they do certain things like using M dashes obsessively in writing and things like that. It learned it from a human.
Yep.
So, but we have the ability to create these things,
Mhm.
and that earned experience and the value of having done the work
Mhm.
is still going to be the most important thing in the future. And that was part of your presentation.
It
I know as well
was.
that stuck with me.
Yeah, it stuck with me too because I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, AI is going to take my job. We won't have any jobs in the future as project managers because AI is going to take our jobs." And I want to say, no, it will take the jobs of those who do not know how to use the tool. So you
Hmm.
definitely want to know how to use the tool, but it's not enough to know how to use the tool. Because you got to remember what we just talked about. Like for me to create that agent for my business, I had experience in that business. I had an understanding of the issues, and
Hmm.
therefore I could create something to resolve the problem. I love this article that I shared at the Women in Tech. It's basically a professional, seasoned professional who was saying the experience you have is sort of like a grounding because you cannot build good prompts. You cannot build good tools if you do not understand the context, the work itself. So those who have more experience, like those who are good PMs, those who are good developers, those who are good at, whatever craft they have, will then be able to now take it to the next level because now they have a tool to sharpen what they're doing. But if you're not good at the very foundational level with your work, then you can only make so much.
Sure.
Actually, the reason why the AI is really good is because there are many people who have good experiences that have put them in there. So if those people get better, you can
Hmm.
have two people go to the same tool and get a totally different result because it's what you put in it. And I think that has to do with experience. So I'd say you still need to, if you're a project manager, you still need to know what it takes to build a good project. You need to have your charter. You need to know who your stakeholders are. You need to map the communications
Hmm.
for your stakeholders. You still need to know how to build a budget. You need to know how to build a plan with a schedule. You need to know uh, the human relationships and
Hmm.
understand the dynamics of your stakeholders and your teams. And those are things that takes time to get to. You don't just become good at that stuff without experience and knowledge. So
Yeah.
yeah, no
Yeah.
shortcuts there.
Yeah, yeah, that aspect of the human relationships on a team, actually, yeah, I want to double click onto that too, because we talked about that a lot when we did our podcast last year as
Oh
well.
yeah.
You made the analogy of project manager being like the conductor of an orchestra, right? And like
Oh
keeping
yeah.
everybody on beat and keeping everything going.
Yep.
How is that changing with AI too? Because we see things even as simple as like AI helping to, summarize meeting notes and like call notes and things like that.
Yep.
How is AI helping? How is AI hurting in terms of those like interpersonal team dynamics?
So it's helping because, like I said, you can do the minutes. It's helping because if you're good at this, it actually cannot look at the calendars and help you. It basically is like your secretary. If you
Mm.
if you have a good agent, it will literally be your assistant as a project manager, taking care of some of the more annoying, mundane tasks that you have to do as a project manager. Where it's not helping you is if you just have it rat out information without thoughtfully knowing who is who in the project
Mm.
and what kind of nuance it needs to add. So if you're a smart project manager, what you're doing with AI is making it take care of the day-to-day mundane tasks, but then you're now focusing more on the strategic items that you need to take care of.
You're using the time that AI is giving you back by summarizing all those communications. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So you're thinking about your stakeholders. You're thinking, what do my stakeholders really need me to do? Decisions. So one of the things is you need to use AI to filter through the noise to help you understand what the problem is,
Hmm.
so that you can make a decision. You need to use AI to help you save time, so that you can actually have the communication to move blockers. Um, I would say that that is the biggest advantage, I would say, for me, at least in looking at projects. And I think the other item that might be helpful is if you used AI to realize AI is not going to replace the human person.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you have a project that needs a contract signed, AI can't sign the contract. You have to communicate that
Mhm.
to someone. You have to follow up on that contract to be signed in order for the project to proceed. If you have a difficult person who is frustrated and is not performing as needed to move things forward, you may want to AI cannot help you. It may send a nuanced note, but if it's
Sure.
impersonal, you're not solving the problem. You'll need to have a human communication and understand what exactly is holding you back. How can I move this forward? You're going to have those conversations. So I think that for me, at least, for what I've used AI for, is to make sure that the decisions that need to be made, I'm understanding where's the breakdown. And I'm also trying to understand on the human side of things. Am I coming off as authentic and really caring to the people I work with? Because at the end of the day, we're not bots. We're
Mhm.
humans. We need to know that you care and that you're engaged with us. And if we feel like everything is mechanical, which unfortunately, that's one of the things I've actually been trying to fight, is having my AI communications feel so mechanical. So even when I use I try to look at it and see, who am I? What can I personalize here? Would I use this word? Can you do this? Or maybe should I couch it with a bit of more gentleness? Because
Sure.
sometimes it can come off as maybe entitled or aggressive, or it might come off as very indifferent. And that's where you add that nuance, because you want to show the humanity to move things forward.
Yeah, yeah. There's three things that are kind of very human
Mhm,
elements of work that I think you touched on in there that are going to be really important.
mhm,
The first is decision making.
yep,
Uh, AI can give you tons of different information, help you determine actions.
mhm,
A lot of technology work is still going to be a human being having the conviction
mhm.
and taking the ownership too,
Yeah,
to say, hey, we have considered all of these possibilities. We've talked to all these stakeholders. Here's what we're doing.
right.
like
Yep,
like that's a really powerful thing. And I don't anticipate businesses outsourcing that to AI,
yep,
because we are, human-based businesses serving humans.
yep.
I think that's really important. And then this comes up a little bit more in marketing world, so I don't know how much this comes up in tech, but the word taste kind of comes up a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
When you were mentioning your communications there of how you might tweak something that maybe AI helps you draft, because like, I wouldn't use that word.
Yeah,
Um, the uniqueness and the creativity and just what makes you you, I think
right.
is still really important too. So I think those things are becoming even more important.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talked about marketing. So I'll put in a plug for UB.
Yeah.
I'm doing my MBA at UB,
Oh,
online
great.
MBA.
Let's go.
And one of the things is, marketing professor said something about how, marketing is not just about the branding outside the organization. Your customers are not just the customers outside the organization. Your employees are your customers. So when you're working with your teams, also how you treat them and how they feel about their work also impacts the organization.
For sure.
So when you talked about that, it's we also need to think as an organization, how do we personalize things? How do we make our teams feel that they matter in how we resolve issues? How do they feel when they're waiting on things to be solved? Do we make our internal teams wait for so long? Or if it's an external customer, we resolve it immediately. But internal customers,
Mhm.
like maybe waiting on service now on a ticket for like a week, 2 weeks, and that holds them up from doing their work. But our external customer, we're like, oh, this is an emergency, and we yell at them if they don't resolve it within a certain turnaround. So we need to think about our internal team as our customer, and we need to take their needs as seriously as we take our external customer. Because at the end of the day, talking about marketing, our best marketing team are our employees. So we need to take care of them if we
Yeah.
want them to do a good job.
And that's an important thing, even from the angle of talent attraction and retention. If you want to find the best people for your business and win and things like that, how
Absolutely.
you operate as humans, how you make decisions, how you still keep things working internally and not not customer focused to the detriment of that internal work and things like that
Yeah,
is still important too, because the people that you have in your business are one of the biggest drivers of products and services and things that you deliver
absolutely.
externally.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, I don't know. That was a revolutionary idea in a sense because it's true. I was thinking about even growing up in Africa.
Yeah.
When we had a guest, we would put out our very best for the guests. Sometimes you even offered
Yeah.
your bed to the guest
Sure.
and slept on the couch or whatever because guests were treated as the VIP. We said, we had a Kikuyu saying, "Mogani Nerowe," which meant a guest is like a river passing by. So just take good care of them while they pass by. But I kind of feel like sometimes that's the mentality that also companies have is that they sometimes treat employees like we're just like we're supposed to cater to the guest who is the customer, but we are not taking care of ourselves. We're
Mhm.
not sustaining ourselves. So I think that for me was a revolutionary idea is that I need to think about my internal customer so that my internal customer is well taken care of. Now they can take care of my external customer.
Yeah. And then that could be a whole other podcast episode too, thinking
Yeah.
about taking care of our teams
Yeah.
and even taking care of ourselves too, I think is a big part of
Yeah.
knowledge work and technology work and things like that moving forward. So,
Absolutely.
anything else you touched on in your women in tech talk? We got a couple of minutes here before I know we got to get you off to a call, but
Yeah.
anything else that's on your mind?
I think and this comes from thinking about at the end of the day, this goes back to my Jesuit education. One of the requirements in a Jesuit school is that you have to take philosophy and theology. They
Yeah.
they make you take some classes in philosophy and theology, and I'm very thankful. Shout out to St. Joe's in Philadelphia.
Woo. Yeah.
I remember one of the things they told us is we did a bit of Thomistic philosophy, and the idea that we have a beginning and we have an end. Like when you have a teleological, like a purpose, a long term perspective of who you are. There's a lot of fear right now with AI and that it diminishes the human person because now we become negligible as we focus more on technology. But I love how they taught us to see humanity as the stewards of creation. We are in the driver's seat. We are the ones, just like that orchestra, we are still the ones conducting the orchestra. Now we have a ton of AI tools, which you can consider your opera with a ton of AI tools that you can use. But even with all those tools, the human being is still at the apex of creation and is really should be the protagonist. And we should never like abdicate
Mm,
that role of being the stewards of creation, of being the people who are driving the decisions, of being the people who, because if we do that, if we let AI drive instead of us, then it will dehumanize us.
exactly.
And we cannot let that happen. So one of the things I talked about to women especially is how we need to be engaged with AI so that our story is told in AI. We're not gonna have AI kind of wipe us off because that's the thing. It only bases itself on the information that's there. So we
Yes.
should feed AI with humanity, with our humanity. We should make it respect us and make it value us in the way we use it. We shouldn't be tools for it. We should be its bosses, guiding it so that it has an authentic and human flair to it and not a mechanical flair. So that's I
Yeah.
think I'd say my closing on
Oh,
that. Yeah.
nice. I like that. I like that a lot. I just finished. I'm going to leave people with a book recommendation because
Yeah.
I don't know why not. I feel like that's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But I just finished rereading. I don't know if you've ever read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Coelho, I have to. It's
Yeah,
on my to-do
is
for
an amazing book. I'll lend you my copy. I'll bring it in and we'll swap it next time. But
awesome.
it's one that I reread like every probably every other year.
Yeah.
But it felt really poignant today in terms of it's about a boy who follows his personal legend and leads him on a lot of adventures around southern Spain and Egypt and all those kinds of things.
Oh wow.
But I think the point of all that is we need to not lose sight of our like purpose and like why we show up to do what we do.
Right.
Um, we don't need to outsource our intelligence, our work, things like that. That's part of like when they say AI isn't here to replace us, it's here to be a tool to
Hmm.
help us and things like that. Like it's here to help us achieve what we want to achieve. And if we clock in every day and we know what we want to achieve and we're using these tools to help us and keep it in that context,
Yeah.
I think we'll
Yeah.
be in a good spot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talking about that reminds me of what Simon Sinek always talks about the why, beginning with, that keeping the end in mind, because
Mhm.
I think that's one of the beautiful things about humanity. We're like the purpose driven ones. We're the why. Why? organism. Everything else just kind of
Yeah.
exists. We lose sense when we don't have a purpose. Our purpose drives us. And it's interesting because that goes back to like during the Holocaust, the book Man's Search for Meaning. He talks about how he could tell when someone was about to die. He said you could tell because they smoked their last cigarette and they kind of just let themselves fade. But those who had a sense of, I'm going to get out of this camp, I'm going to have a future, they fought because they had a purpose. And so that whole book is really built on that premise that if you have a sense of your why, of you have a purpose, some meaning, you can go through the worst things in the world and still live on. So I think that's uniquely human. And that's one of those beautiful things that we need to keep re-emphasizing, is that cannot be replaced by AI. AI doesn't have a meaning. We give it the meaning. We give it the purpose. Otherwise, in and of itself, is empty, you know?
Want to future-proof your tech career?
Yeah.
Keep your purpose.
Yeah.
That feels like a good note to end on.
Absolutely.
Mic drop. Pauline, we could talk for hours, but
Yes.
we'll have you back on the podcast again another time. This
Thank
was so
you.
nice. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.